This lesson is on the 4 basic operations involving negative numbers. We're going to use happy, sad and neutral faces, happy and sad units, to help us learn these procedures. Are you positively happy? Got a surprise, praised by your teacher, completed your work? Or are you negatively sad? Fell down, missed the bus, didn't understand the lesson? Now here's the thing about happiness. From your own experiences, you know that everyone has both happy and sad events in their lives. When the happy units are more than the sad units, well, you are happy. But when the happy units are less than the sad units, then you are sad. And when there are as many happy units as sad units, you are neutral, neither happy nor sad. Makes sense? So now, we'll let a happy unit represent positive 1, and a sad unit represent negative 1. A happy face means the result is positive, while a sad face means the result is negative. A neutral face means the result is 0. Easy? Let's look at addition. What is 3 plus 1? We already know. That's positive 4. Isn't it good to see that this model works well for what you already know? What about 3 plus negative 1? A little bit of sadness reduces, but won't take away your happiness, right? So it's positive 2. How about negative 3 plus 1? You are pretty sad. That little bit of happiness can reduce your sadness, but is not going to remove it, right? So it's negative 2. What about negative 3 plus negative 1? Hey, you are already so sad. Getting even a bit more sadness only makes you even more sad, right? So it's negative 4. What do you think will result from 3 plus negative 3? Well, the sadness cancels out the happiness. So it's 0. What about negative 3 plus 3? This time round, the happiness cancels out your sadness. So it's also 0. Ready for a short quiz on addition involving negative numbers? Let's go. What is the value of each of the following expressions? You have 1 minute to complete this quiz. Managed to get them right? Continue watching this video to see how these answers can be obtained using our happy-sad model, or use the bookmarks in the description box to skip to another section. Here's how the expressions look like in our happy-sad models. A. 4 plus 3 equals 7. B. 2 plus negative 3 equals negative 1. C. 4 plus negative 1 equals 3. D. 2 plus negative 2 equals 0. E. Negative 5 plus 2 equals negative 3. F. Negative 1 plus 1 equals 0. G. Negative 2 plus 3 equals 1. H. Negative 2 plus negative 2 equals negative 4. Before we move on to subtraction, let's make an important observation. Whatever the number of happy or sad units, you have a 0 as long as there is equal number of each. Let's begin using this model to learn subtraction. What is 3 minus 1? We already know. That's positive 2. Happiness a little reduced. Isn't it good to see that this model works well for what you already know? What is 3 minus 3? We also know. That's 0. Whatever happiness added has been taken away. Cannot smile, but cannot frown either, right? What about 3 minus 4? Hey! More happiness is taken away than was added. So that's -1. Happiness is so much reduced that you become sad. Makes sense? Next up, what is -3 minus 1? You may not already know, but that's -4. You were already sad, and a unit of happiness was taken away. Makes you even more sad, right? How about -3 minus 3? This may surprise you, but that's -6. As in the previous example, happiness was taken from you when you were already sad, and that makes you even sadder. Oh dear. So sad. What about -3 minus -1? That's -2. You start off sad, but a little sadness is taken away, so you are a little less sad. Makes sense? And how about -3 minus -3? Nice. Whatever sadness that is added is also taken away. So that's 0. You no longer frown, but you cannot smile either. Right? What do you think will be the result of -3 minus -4? Hey! More sadness is taken away than was added. So that's +1. Sadness so much reduced that you become happy. Makes sense? Before we move on to the quiz on subtraction, let's make 4 more important observations. 1. By adding a sad unit, you change from neutral to sad. 2. By taking away a happy unit, you get the same effect. In other words, to subtract 1 is equivalent to adding -1. 3. By adding a happy unit, you change from neutral to happy. 4. By taking away a sad unit, you get the same effect. In other words, to subtract -1 is equivalent to adding 1. So if you are more comfortable with addition, you have another option of doing subtraction. Looking back at the examples we did earlier, let's redo 2 of them. We'll start with -3 minus 3. -3 minus 3 can be rewritten as -3 plus -3, using the observation that -1 equals plus -1, so that -3 is the same as plus -3. This may make it easier to see that the result is -6, as shown by the model. Next we'll take another look at -3 minus -4. This can be rewritten as -3 plus 4, using the observation that -1 equals plus 1, so that -4 is the same as plus 4. This may make it easier to see that the result is +1, as shown by the model. Choose the method that you are more comfortable with. Now, are you ready for the quiz on subtraction involving negative numbers? Let's go! What is the value of each of the following expressions? You have 1 minute to complete this quiz. Managed to get them right? Continue watching this video to see how these answers can be obtained using our Happy Sad model, or use the bookmarks in the description box to skip to another section. A. 4 minus 3 equals 1. Alternatively, you can write 4 minus 3 as 4 plus -3, giving you 1. B. 2 minus -3 equals 5. Alternatively, you can write 2 minus negative 3 as 2 plus 3, giving you 5. See, negative 4 minus negative 1 equals negative 3. Alternatively, you can write negative 4 minus negative 1 is negative 4, plus 1, giving you negative 3. D. Negative 1 minus negative 2 equals 1. Alternatively, you can write negative 1 minus negative 2 as negative 1, plus 2, giving you positive 1. E. 1 minus 4 equals negative 3. Alternatively, you can write 1 minus 4 as 1, plus negative 4, giving you negative 3. F. Negative 1 minus 1 equals negative 2. Alternatively, you can write negative 1 minus 1 as negative 1, plus negative 1, giving you negative 2. G. 2 minus negative 1 equals 3. Alternatively, you can write 2 minus negative 1 as 2 plus 1, giving you 3. H. Negative 2 minus negative 2 equals 0. Alternatively, you can write negative 2 minus negative 2 as negative 2 plus 2, giving you 0. As mentioned earlier, choose the method you are most comfortable with. Based on my teaching experience, those expressions that involve the subtraction of negative numbers are probably the only ones students would want to rewrite into an addition problem. Let's begin multiplication. What is 3 times 2? You already know. It's 6. What about negative 3 times 2? This isn't difficult. It's negative 6. Before we continue with multiplication by negative numbers, let's consider these scenarios. You missed the lift. How do you feel? Sad, right? That's normal. However, if you change your thinking and decide that missing the lift is good, because it gives you a chance to exercise by walking up the stairs, you become happy, right? Similarly, you could be happily reading during your study time, or sadly thinking of the fun you were missing out on during that time. Happiness or sadness does not always depend on the event. It's about your thinking, right? That's the reason why Brian Tracy's book, that teaches about changing your thinking to improve your life, sold more than 500,000 copies. So think of multiplication by the negative as a change. It changes happy units into sad units, and sad units into happy units. Of course the faces also change. Easy, right? So let's move on. We stopped at negative 3 times 2. What about 3 times negative 2? Remember, multiplying by the negative changes all the units in the face, and the 2 doubles the impact, so we have negative 6. How about negative 3 times negative 2? Again, remember that multiplying by the negative changes all the units in the face, and the 2 doubles the impact, so we have positive 6. Interesting. Change your thinking, change your life. As a matter of fact, highly successful people do not always have sweet beginnings. Thomas Edison failed more than 10,000 times before he finally successfully invented the light bulb. As division is very closely related to multiplication, let's make your overall learning easier by dealing with division as well. Since 3 times 2 equals 6, then 6 divided by 2 equals 3. You already know this, don't you? You also know that negative 3 times 2 equals negative 6. Then negative 6 divided by 2 equals negative 3. Makes sense, right? You just learned to multiply by negative numbers. Let's start to divide by negative numbers. Earlier, you saw that 3 times negative 2 equals negative 6. So negative 6 divided by negative 2 equals 3. Surprise? Or maybe not surprised? Finally, you also saw that negative 3 times negative 2 equals 6. So 6 divided by negative 2 equals negative 3. Makes sense? Let's summarize multiplication and division. Observe that as long as the two inputs are of opposite signs, the result is negative. And as long as both inputs are of the same sign, the result is positive. Easy? Now, are you ready for a quiz on multiplication and division involving negative numbers? Let's go. What is the value of each of the following expressions? You have 1 minute to complete this quiz. Managed to get them right? Remember the observations made earlier? When the inputs have the same sign, the result is positive. When the inputs are of opposite signs, the result is negative. We'll touch briefly on the zero product property and division by zero before we finish this lesson. You already know the zero product property, that when any input of a product is zero, the result is zero. For example, if I have 0 pizza in each box, then whether I multiply by 2 boxes or 50 boxes, the total number of pizzas will still be 0. What does this tell us about division? If you have 0 pizza, then, whether you have 2 boxes or 50 boxes to fill, you will still have 0 pizza in each box. Now, you can also say that 2 boxes, or 50 boxes, times 0 pizza in each box, equals 0 pizza. What, then, is 0 divided by 0? Is it going to be 2 or 50? The answer could be anything. So we say 0 divided by 0 is undefined. We have come to the end of the lesson. Continue watching to do an overall quiz on the 4 basic operations on negative numbers, or use the bookmarks in the description box to review any part of the lesson. What is the value of each of the following expressions? You have 2 minutes to complete this quiz. Managed to get them right? Awesome! This is the end of the lesson and the quizzes. Congratulations for completing this learning journey.